This is the Lucid Air. It's an EV I didn't know much about before getting a chance to check it out. Lucid sent it to me for a week, but gave no instructions, just told me to enjoy the car and tell my audience about it. So I appreciate them for doing that. If you don't know me, I'm not a car reviewer, I'm just your average citizen, but I love technology. And in this video, I'm going to tell you my experience with the Lucid Air Touring Edition for 1 week. The Lucid Air Touring Edition has a starting price of $95,000. And once all the optional equipment added like paint color, the sound system, the upgraded wheels, and the glass roof, the total price was $113,000. And believe it or not, this is the mid-level version of the Lucid Air because there is a step down and also a huge step up. The step down is called the Air Pure, which is a single motor and rear wheel drive vehicle, and that is $77,000. If you want to go all out and take it all the way up, that's the Air Sapphire. Fully equipped is $249,000. So there's definitely a big gap between all the trims, and I recommend heading over to their website to see all the differences because that in itself could be a full video. Because in this video, I'm going to talk about my experience with the car I actually had. So right out the gate, Lucid is putting up some crazy numbers, ones that I did not expect. This car is rated for 411 miles and it goes 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. Compared to my Tesla Model Y performance, which is rated for 300 miles and 3.5 seconds, 0 to 60. In real world driving over the week, I got around 380 miles of mixed usage. And with EVs, there's a lot of factors that comes into play with mileage, so let's talk about that. I was not in stop and go traffic. I did most of my driving in the morning. And also it was roughly 50 to 60 degrees outside, so climate control wasn't something I was using heavily. All right, guys, we gotta talk about some driving impressions. And I kind of feel the best way to do a driving impression is actually do it while driving. I wanna make sure I'm talking about everything correctly. I've had this car for about 4 days now, and I put 65 miles on this vehicle. Just my daily commuting. I took it on the freeway a few different times and all those things to get a feel for how this car runs and how this car handles and everything like that. And I will say that I'm very impressed with this car. I have driven several other EVs before. As you guys know, I've owned a Model 3, Model Y. I had extensive time with the Hummer EV, the Mach-E as well. So I have an idea of kind of what's out there and how things feel. And I would say, as far as like fun to drive, I put this up there as probably the most fun I've had driving an EV. So first of all, you guys know EVs are super fast. This Lucid Air is stupid quick. And the size of the vehicle, it's really low to the ground. So it just feels like a little bullet cutting through the air. My Model Y kind of feels like a tall egg, and I'm sure the air goes over it. But this thing is low to the ground. It feels like a bullet, but it's also large. It's also big too, which is really nice to drive, and you definitely feel it. The turn axis and the way it handles, the way it turns, and just the responsiveness, it is really, really nice. I am actually enjoying driving this vehicle, going between curves and really going in and out of traffic and really accelerating. It's that good, it's that nice. Also, one small minor gripe, I feel like the engine spool or the motor spool is higher than what I've been accustomed to with other EVs as well. I mean, listen to the sound when I use the regenerative braking. I mean, that is pretty loud compared to what I've used with other vehicles as well, including my Model Y. So I do love how the Lucid looks. It is designed to be a luxury car, and it has a lot of that clean styling that you see with luxury cars. On the road, this car definitely does stick out. I mean, people were stopping me to talk about the car, and people had questions about it and wondering what the heck it was. There's not a lot of Lucids here in Michigan. I love the swooping hood and the rear diffuser. Even though the Air decal on the back of the car I think is a bit gaudy, it still is a great looking car to me. The interior of the car to me looks futuristic. A lot of screens and touch controls, but they do have a couple of physical buttons. A lot of car companies are doing a lot more physical buttons and on-screen controls, whereas these tech companies like Lucid, Rivian, Tesla, they do mostly on-screen buttons. And being honest, doing the smallest task does require diving through menus. But I'm sure just like anything else, you sort of get used to it. But in my week driving, I still struggled getting through all the menus when trying to do things like adjusting headlights, or sometimes even just the littlest adjustments that I wanted to make. Really took me a few minutes to figure out like, is it down here? Is it here? Do I go to this? And that becomes a little bit difficult, but once again, if I had it a little bit longer, I'm sure I would have figured that out. Now, one thing I was definitely unsure about was the dual screen layouts. It seems like one of the most overtop things about the car, but it did grow on me. The middle screen provides you with quick access to things like your mirrors, drive modes, lights, and anything else regarding the car. This is definitely different to have this many screens in front of you. I don't know why, I just like it. I do find it really cool that you can just flick the screen up and it goes away, and you can put stuff back there and you flick it down and the screen comes down. So it's another way to hide things, which I think is really cool. But you can also access it by going around. You can still get to some of your things too if you just stick your hand around the screen. You know, the interface isn't too intrusive. It sort of makes sense where everything is. And I guess since the settings are put on the screen on the bottom, this main screen can be a whole lot more clean overall. You can have a lot less things that are actually getting in your way. And I don't truly hate it. We also have CarPlay on board, and it works as expected with your full CarPlay app on this very large screen. It also takes full advantage of it with no wasted space on the edges. There's also voice integration with Amazon. And when you use the Amazon voice for directions, it uses its own mapping service, which is comically bad compared to what Apple or Google provides. So what I'm saying is you should be pairing your phone and using your phone for navigation on the screen instead of using what Lucid provides on their software. There are also a few different knobs in the car which allows for adjusting volume. One sits in the middle of the dash and the other one is on the steering wheel. And also on the wheel is the adaptive cruise control. And so I guess one more gripe is that glass roof. Although it looks really nice and it gives you that futuristic look when you're in the car, and at night it's a very nice drive, especially when there's a lot of stars, you know, all those things. It's just a really cool look. But being honest, when the sun is beaming down, it gets hot in the car. It makes the car very hot. Since that roof is not truly tinted, or you can't adjust the tint level on the roof, it can get very hot in the car. And I can only imagine if it was like the middle of the summer, like in August, when it's 95 degrees or 100 degrees outside. I can only imagine how hot it gets in the car, because it was only 60, 70 degrees outside, but that sun was making it very hot in the car because it was coming right through the roof. Now, some of the new higher end luxury cars, that glass roof does start to tint a little bit, and you're able to adjust that in the car, and this car doesn't have the ability to do that. So it's one of those things that you're pretty much stuck with it, and something to really think about if you're gonna have this car in hot climates. All right, let's take a look inside the trunk. You have this very tight clearance because the vehicle is so low. And this is it. It doesn't go very far at all. You have these two cubbies here on the side. This is where the charging little box goes. And then you have another cubby right here. You can put more things in. Very short. We do have our 12-volt power outlet here as well. Lift this up and we have an additional cubby, but there is no spare tire in here, as we're seeing with a lot of vehicles. We do have a pass-through here, and also when you pull the seat down, you can access it, the trunk from here as well. So range is where the Lucid Air Touring really shines. With the EPA rating of 384 miles, that removes the range anxiety for most people. As someone who's been driving EVs full-time for 5 years now, many questions that pop up. Well, the primary question that pops up is, what do you do when you have to have a road trip? And my answer has always been, there's superchargers. There's 20,000 superchargers that I could access. And then I pull up a map and show them there's a supercharger right next door, right? That usually shuts them up, and they have different questions. But when you have a non-Tesla EV, at this point, over-the-road charging isn't a great solution. This car does support the Electrify America charging network. It's very hit or miss, right? There's plenty of them that are available to go to, but they're hit and miss. So Electrify America sounds like a great solution, but it's something that hasn't been doing too well historically. Now, a lot of manufacturers are very aware of this problem, and so they're actually switching over to Tesla's chargers. But that doesn't mean you could just go up to a supercharger and start charging, right? The charger has to allow for that. It has to be a car terminal there. And a lot of chargers now don't have that. So it's gonna be a process that needs to be retrofit to support non-Tesla vehicles. And also, that doesn't mean all 10 charger slots will be available for your vehicle. It's quite possible that only 2 or 3 of them will have access to that. It's still murky in the water. And then also, when you think about it, now you just open it up to thousands of more vehicles, and overcrowding of superchargers is already a thing. But that is a EV problem, not a Lucid Air problem, but it is something that definitely comes up in conversation. Now, I will say this vehicle is very safe with a lot of collision detection warnings that happens. I'm in stop and go traffic right now, another part of my test that I like to do with vehicles. And I'm having all sorts of things pop up for me. So like when I turn my turn signal on, there's a car in my way, it starts to flash red and it actually prevents me from getting over, which is extremely helpful. And then even my mirrors will then have the little yellow icon letting me know that there's a car in my blind spot. A lot of things like that occurs, and then when you turn the blinker on, you can obviously see that side too. Now, a lot of cars also have that full driving visualization that's available, and that would be very nice if that was right here, but it's not available for this vehicle, and I would have loved to see that for a vehicle at this price point. For $110,000, there's a lot of other cars on the market that are EV and non-EV that are really good. So I wonder, would you rather have this, or would you rather have a Benz EQS, a BMW 7 Series, an Audi e-tron? And that's the problem with new EVs. They're very expensive, but they're very good vehicles. But at the same time, they don't have that proven track record like some of these other companies. So you actually are an early adopter when you are buying one of these type of vehicles, and not everyone is comfortable being an early adopter with something that is that expensive and something that you rely on every single day. But regardless, I did love my time with the Lucid Air Touring Edition, and I'm excited to see what comes out next with Lucid because they just unveiled their SUV, which looks really amazing. So Lucid has some stuff in the works, and I'm excited to see what they have coming, and maybe one day in the future, it'll be a vehicle I'll start to look at. Kevin the Tech Ninja, have a great day. Talk to you guys later.